Welcome back to Fight Club Minis. This is the final part of my trick-or-treat diorama, and it would not be trick-or-treat without some Halloween candy, so that's what we're making. I'm just rolling out some polymer clay, and I just want to make a few different kinds of candy. I'm going to make some lollipops, I'm going to make some chocolate bars, and of course I'm going to make Sam's lollipop, which you can see here. I'm using a little piece of wire just to make an indentation in the back of the clay so that I can easily glue in the little lollipop sticks after they're baked. To make the other lollipops, I'm just rolling out some tiny snakes of clay and then I'm going to roll them together to get that classic lollipop look. And then to make the chocolate bars, I rolled out a brown snake of clay and just cut out some tiny pieces. This Halloween candy would not be complete without some razor blades, so I painted a small piece of black cardstock silver, and I'm just cutting out some thin strips, and then I cut them into little razor blade shapes. Now I'm going to make some vomit because I'm trying to recreate this moment from the movie, if you know, you know. So to do that, I'm mixing together some clear PVA glue and some dark red and brown paint. And I'm trying to get the consistency just right because I need it to be watery enough to drip down the stairs, but thick enough to stay in place. I tested it here and the color and consistency look right, so I started pouring it on the stairs, which was a bit nerve-wracking because there was no going back after this, so I was really praying that it looked decent. On the porch, I need to make it look like something has been dragged because, spoiler alert, Charlie, I believe that's the kid's name, is dragged into the basement. So I'm just using my popsicle stick and kind of creating some drag lines toward the front door. While that's still wet, I'm going to sprinkle on the candy, starting with the smallest, cutest candy corn I've ever seen. And then I'm going to add in my razor blades and lollipops. I need this to look a bit more fall, so I'm going to mix together these two colors of leaves and sprinkle them on the stairs. Next, I want to make Sam's burlap sack, so I bought some of these little gift bags and I thought they would be the perfect size. I need to make it look dirty because Sam drags this thing all over town. So I'm starting with some watered down brown paint and just kind of going to build up the color on the bottom to make it look wet and dirty. Once it's dry, this is what it looks like, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off the top of this because it is a little bit too tall, and I also have a different idea of how I want the bag to be tied. To give it some weight and make it look like it's full, I'm going to fill this with some dried rice. And then I'm going to take some twine and tie the top. I'm going to dirty up the top a little bit, so just using some more of that watered down brown paint. And then I will add a little bit of glue just on the knot so that this thing doesn't come undone and rice spills everywhere. Now I want to make some holly hoe bars, so I just scaled the labels down to size and I'm just going to cover them with some packing tape to give it that shiny candy bar wrapper look. For some reason, I printed a ton of these, even though I only ended up making a couple. I did make a few that were going to be unopened, so I just cut some small pieces off of a coffee stirrer and glued them inside to give it the correct shape. Here is the chocolate with the razor blade in it, and then here is the one that looks like it's had a few bites taken out of it. I'm going to do the same process I did with the other chocolate bars, but these are going to be open on one side with the chocolate sticking out. I'm just using my tweezers to kind of pull the wrapper down a little bit and make it look a bit more realistic. And then I'm also going to add a bit of red paint to the inside wrapper just to make it look cohesive. Now I want to make one of the lawn ghosts that we see in the beginning of the movie. I'm not sure if that's what they're called, but that's what I'm calling them. So I'm starting by making the base, and I'm just cutting some pieces of balsa wood, and I'm going to glue them together to make a cross shape. And then I also cut a longer piece to be glued on top. That will be like the quote unquote body of our little ghost. And for the head, I actually used some scrap clay, just rolled it into the size ball that I wanted, glued that on top, and then I glued some pieces of wood on for the arms. Since I want the sheet on top to drape a certain way, I'm going to make a mixture of Elmer's glue and some water. This is the same thing I do when I make curtains, and I'm just soaking a piece of white fabric in the mixture and squeezing out the excess liquid. And then I'm just going to drape it over my ghost form and position it where I want it. I'm just going to use my fingers to make pleats and just kind of position it exactly where I think it should go and get it to hang correctly. And then once it dries, it will keep its shape. Moving on, I need to make the wood floor that goes inside of the front door. So I just cut a piece of wood to size and I'm just painting it with some watered down brown paint. And then once that dries, I can glue it behind the front door. And I added some little supports underneath just to make sure it doesn't bow. Now that the floor is in there, I can go ahead and add some fake blood. I'm going to start by adding some on the doormat, again, making it look like someone has been dragged inside. And then I'll put some on the floor inside as well. I need to make some walls for the inside, and this is my inspo. I found this wallpaper that matched pretty closely, and I cut 2 pieces of mat board. So I'm just going to glue the wallpaper on using my favorite wallpaper glue, Yes Paste, and then I can start with the bloody writing all over the wall. It would have been easier to do the writing when the walls weren't glued together, but it's fine. I'm going to start with a red paint pen, and then I'll be going over it with some watered down red paint. Now that all of our components are made and everything is dry, we can start adding everything into the scene. So I'm gluing my little lawn ghost down, and then I'm going to glue all my pumpkins. I'm also adding in Sam's sack and the holly hoe bars. Of course, we need a shotgun for Mr. Krieg, the school bus driver. And I'm also adding in this little pumpkin Halloween bucket that I had in my collection. And I'm also going to add in a witch hat for Macy. Once I got all the objects glued in, I went ahead and glued in my picket fence, and the project is almost complete, but there is one more thing I want to add. We can't have a trick-or-treat diorama without Sam, who is my absolute favorite. So I'm going to make a little bust using this guy as a reference. I'm just rolling some polymer clay into a ball, and I'm going to use one of those little burlap sacks to give it some texture. Now, I am not a sculptor, so we'll see how this turns out. My idea is to have him peeking out of the left window, so that's why I'm only going to be doing his head, because that's all we're going to see. once he's baked, this is what he looks like, and it's not amazing, but I think it'll be fine. And I started painting with this dark brown, which was really not the right choice. I'm not really sure what I was thinking. So I ended up going over it with this lighter brown, which was the perfect color and so much better. I went over him with some watered down brown paint just to dirty him up a little bit, and then I tied some twine around his neck. So I added him into the window and you can't really see him at all. So I really did all that for nothing, but I will be adding a light back there and maybe that will help. Now the project is finally complete and here is the finished piece. If you enjoyed this and you want to see all the other spooky ideas I have, please like and subscribe. I have some really fun projects coming up and I can't wait to share them. Happy Summerween and thanks for watching!